everyone, my name is Evie Lupine. Welcome back to my channel, and today I have another video for you all. Today I want to discuss how you can find BDSM events online as well as other aspects of the BDSM community. Now, normally on my channel, if someone asks me how they can find a dungeon or a munch or some other kind of BDSM going on, I will direct them to my previous videos where I have discussed how to do that. But unfortunately, in the age of social distancing and stay-at-home orders, it really doesn't work to tell somebody to go to, say, the mall directory to find a local munch or to search for their locale on FetLife, because those events just aren't happening these days. So what I want to do here is discuss how you can stay connected to the kink community, or maybe even discover it for the first time while staying online. The good news is that BDSM people were actually among some of the first adopters of the internet. We've always been kind of very online types, so when it comes to the use of technology, BDSM people are usually a bit ahead of the curve, and so it's actually not necessarily as hard as you think it might be to find events online. We have definitely been using Zoom and Google Meet among others, so it's not like we're stuck in the Stone Age on that one. And as it would be for finding real-life events, you are probably going to want to use FetLife as your first and primary resource. And if you're totally new to the BDSM community and you don't really know what FetLife is, quick explanation is that it is like kinky Facebook with lots of events and discussion groups and lots of ways of interacting with kinky people on a specific website for that purpose. If you really don't know how to use FetLife, I have a whole video down below where I've talked about it before that is still relevant for this conversation. So how do you use FetLife to find online events? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to look at the top bar of the FetLife homepage, and you'll see a couple of different tabs. It'll say like Home, Explore, and then there will be one that says Events. You're going to want to click on that one. Now, if you are used to using FetLife, you'll probably be familiar with the one that says Events Near Me. Look right next to that one, and you'll see there's a whole new tab that FetLife has made recently as a result of the current events going on in the world. Now, if you just click on virtual events, there's not really a way, at least right now, to narrow it down. So you're gonna see literally everything, and there is something for everyone on there. Anything you could imagine is probably on that list. There are virtual dungeons, there are classes, there are support groups, there are discussion groups, there's D&D campaigns, there's poker nights, there's auctions, there's orgies, there's literally everything you can think of, virtual moshes, you name it. So if you want it, it is probably on there, but it can be really overwhelming to look at all of that and go, okay, well, which one of these is actually what I'm looking for and what's going to be worth my time. And especially if it's something like a class, something you're gonna have to pay for, you're definitely gonna wanna make sure you're not actually ending up on the other side of a scam, and the other person that's on the other end of the call isn't just gonna be a naked old man by himself. Well, in that case, I do actually have a couple of suggestions if you want to narrow down your searches. There are actually several really well-known organizations that are helping to put together a lot of these events. Places like, for example, the Pan Eros Foundation, the Consent Academy, Wicked Grounds, the Dallas-Fort Worth Bank, or Woodshed Orlando. So if you're familiar with any of those, or even if you're not, definitely check out their pages because they have their own events they're going to be hosting, which is great because they are more well-known and they're generally going to be hosting people where they have done vetting and they know that they're going to actually do what they say they're going to do on the label. And there are also well-known members of the kink community that are hosting things for themselves, people like Midori or Lee Harrington. So also check out their pages to see what they are going to and what they'll be hosting themselves. There's also a great group that's called BDSM Classes and Workshops Online that's actually hosted by fellow YouTuber Morgan Thorne, which really helps to condense a lot of these very disparate groups and organizations into one place, because usually when a big event is going to happen, they will post in that group. There's also a similarly named one that is run by, I think it's Evie M, who is pretty well known in the rope community, and that one is called Remote/Virtual Kink Education. Now, depending on who is organizing these events, you might see anything from free to suggested donation $5 up to $30 to $50 per pair, depending on what the class is. So even if you don't have a lot of income right now, chances are there will be free or very low cost events that you can apply to. And even the ones that are more on the expensive side will usually have some kind of scholarship program or some kind of reduced income available ticket to make sure that people who are going through financial hardship right now still have access to these resources. But all the things I've mentioned so far have really been more focused around workshops and classes. What if you're more looking for the social side of things? What if you just want a casual munch or a kinky D&D group? You really just want to be able to hang out with like-minded people. If you're already part of your local community, definitely reach out to the normal hosts for things that used to happen in real life, like munches and parties. See if they're planning on organizing anything, or maybe if they need help trying to put something together. A lot of times what happens in the kink community is a bunch of people want something, but nobody will say anything, and so it just keeps not happening, even if everybody really wants it. And sometimes it just takes a little push to get something started. Also, if you want to eventually transition to being part of your local community, I would actually search by your nearest area first rather than virtual events, just to make sure they're going to be more relevant for you and also help you to connect to people that you can eventually socialize with IRL. Also, unlike with classes and workshops, there's not really any great groups out there that are like large enough to really synthesize a lot of the big online munches that are happening, so you're really going to have to do a lot of that legwork yourself, unfortunately. If there's nothing really happening where you live and you want to search out your immediate geographic area, I would recommend going to virtual events, but narrow it down to a specific day. Otherwise, it's going to be totally overwhelming and you're going to be absolutely inundated with the thousands of things that are happening online. So maybe you want to go to an online munch on a Monday, or maybe you're free on Wednesdays. That'll help you more concretely figure out exactly what you're available to go to versus being overwhelmed by all the choices. You could also narrow it down in the search feature by looking up things like Little or Pet Play or Mosh. I personally haven't had a lot of luck doing it this way, but that can be an option if you're looking for something very specific. And for those specific interests, such as for Pet Play or Littles, there are lots of general groups on FetLife, and so it might actually be a good idea to go through those groups and ask people, hey, are there any online moshes happening? Are there any support groups for this particular interest I can be a part of online? And that would be a good way to get access to those resources again, versus trying to sort through all of the thousands of options just in the general search. From there, my advice would actually be pretty similar to what I would do for a real life event. Especially if you're new, it can be really confusing to determine, okay, is this legit? Is this actually going to happen? Or is this just somebody who's trying to make a quick buck? Definitely check out how many people are going to the event. Check out the people that are going to the event, whoever is RSVP, to see if they have blank profiles, if they have profile pictures, descriptions, see if there's any sort of skew to the gender or age or other preferences of the people going, to make sure it's going to be the kind of group you want to be a part of. If it's 3 people and they all have blank profiles, that is probably something I would think twice about going to, versus something where there's, say, 10, 15 people and they all have filled out profiles and they actually seem like they're not robots. Also, definitely message the event organizer to get more information about what the event is going to be like, if they've hosted it before, what the intent of the event is, and so on. People who are hosting legitimate things shouldn't have any problem answering these questions, but people who are maybe a little bit more on the unsavory side might get uncomfortable if you're suddenly asking a lot of questions. And definitely check out the host profile as well. Do they have any writings or reviews that people have left for them about their previously hosted events? Are they a blank profile, or is their only interest orgies? That'll tell you a lot about the person and why they're organizing the event. Ultimately though, it is going to be a little bit hard to determine 100% if something is legitimate or not just based on how it looks on FetLife. The good news is though, if something is awkward or not what you expected, it's a lot easier to hang up on a Zoom call than it is to awkwardly call for an Uber and hope that somebody can come rescue you in the next 10 minutes. But with that being said, I do need to bring up some safety concerns when it comes to online BDSM interactions. Now, it's not as risky as just going to somebody's house and playing alone and not letting anybody know where you're going to be at, but there are things to be concerned about, especially with how many people are using Zoom and Google Meet for the first time. There are going to be a few slip-ups here and there, and privacy is definitely a concern, not just for the BDSM community, but for the general user base of these platforms. So if you are signing up for an account, be careful about using your real name, any kind of other identifying information, or a profile picture. It is definitely okay, and I think it should be okay, to have a blank profile for going into a Zoom call and not showing your face if you're not comfortable with that. Also be aware that people may be recording what you are talking about. People may be recording the event. This could be the event organizers, in which case make sure to ask them ahead of time. That's something they have a plan for if it's a class, if you're not comfortable with that. Also, somebody that is actually participating in the call may be attempting to record it, so that's another reason why you might want to be cautious about using something identifying as part of a profile or having a live video feed. And if you happen to use one of these platforms for virtual schooling or as part of your job for remote work, be sure not accidentally using the wrong account to log in for something. That could be really awkward. Now, outside of FetLife, if that's not something that you feel comfortable using, a lot of us here on YouTube are hosting our own events. So for example, I do live streams every Friday at 6 p.m. that go until 8 o'clock, which are really fun and a great way to interact with people and ask questions. Other people like the MP Experience or Morgan Thorne are also hosting their own virtual Munches and live streams. However, I'm not 100% sure when those are currently happening. I believe Morgan Thorne's are happening on Wednesdays, so be sure to check out their channels for the latest information on that. I will link them down in the description box below. Now, we all might be missing our local dungeons and our usual crew on Tuesday nights at the local Munch, but I think it has been really nice to see the kink community come together in this really difficult time to support each other and maintain a sense of community. And to be clear, the current state of the world is nothing short of tragic. But I do think there is something of a silver lining here, and that would be there are a lot of people that were never able to be part of the BDSM community before that now finally can, because of all of these online resources that we have that allowed them to finally access it. And honestly, I hope they continue long after the world has gone back to whatever its new normal looks like. I know so many people that have finally been able to be part of the BDSM community because of these online resources. Maybe they worked weird hours, or they didn't have the income to spend money on BDSM events or afford a dungeon membership. Maybe they didn't have access to their own transportation, and certainly when it comes to events that are hosted in older buildings, a lot of them aren't ADA compliant and aren't always accessible to people who have disabilities. And not only that, but there are also a lot of people that simply live in parts of the world that don't really have access to BDSM education. And so to be able to have online events where you can literally attend a munch or a class anywhere in the world is life-changing. And I know I've certainly got a lot of messages from people who have told me as such. So I hope maybe this is one good thing that comes out of this ridiculous mess. It might not be a lot, but at least it's something. Anyways, that's everything I wanted to share with you guys today. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything else, you can put that down in the comment section below. If you like this video, if you want to see more from me, please subscribe. I make videos twice a week about all sorts of kink and BDSM related subjects. And finally, if you want to support what I do, the best way you can do that is through Patreon. A link to that will be down below. We have tons of great stuff over there, from a Discord chat, monthly photo shoots, exclusive videos, and more. So again, please be sure to check that out if you haven't already. If you already support me over there, thank you so much. It means the absolute world to me. And until I see you guys next time, I hope you have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.